This week, Siskel and Ebert review Woody Harrelson, Juliette Lewis, and Tommy Lee Jones in Oliver Stone's Natural-Born Killers. A young boy seeks revenge against a ruthless drug dealer in Fresh, and a group of hapless pioneers turns to John Candy for help in Wagons East.
Mallory, do you take Mickey to be your... I ain't gonna murder anybody on a wedding day.
Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis are mass murderers in love and on the run, and they're soon-to-be national celebrities in Oliver Stone's Natural-Born Killers, one of 5 big new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. We'll also look at 2 comedies. One is John Candy's Last Picture, and the other is about a superhero who makes his own super outfit. He does his own sewing. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. One of the most talked about movies of the season is sure to be Natural-Born Killers, the violent and wildly satirical new film by Oliver Stone, which takes as its target the way the criminals become celebrities when their cases are sensationalized by the media. The movie stars Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis in chilling over-the-top performances as Mickey and Mallory Knox, a couple of mass murderers who go on a national killing rampage, being sure to leave their names behind so their fame will grow.
What do you have to say to your fans?
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Robert Downey Jr. plays a tabloid TV reporter who is almost insane with excitement about the ratings possibilities in his exclusive coverage of the two.
What do you think of Mickey and Mallory, huh?
They're hot. They're hot.
Totally hot.
Love Mickey and the Merrily. Just so cool. Just so great.
Mickey and Mallory are the best thing to happen to mass murder since Manson.
Yeah, but they're way cooler.
Tommy Lee Jones is the warden of a prison which briefly holds Mickey and Mallory, and he, too, is intoxicated by his proximity to America's most famous killers.
You write the script. You call it anything you want to. Showdown in Mojave, the extermination of Mickey and Mallory, and I'm going to give you my 2 best men, Kavanaugh and Worcester.
Oliver Stone's lacerating satirical style comes across in scenes like this one, where Mickey checks out his ratings.
The episode we did on Mickey and Mallory, it was one of our most popular ones.
You ever do one on John Wayne Gacy?
Yeah.
We got the higher rating.
It was blew them away. Yeah. What I want to get to...
About Manson.
Manson beat you.
Well, it's pretty hard to beat the king.
I want to see Natural-Born Killers a second time. The first time it verges on visceral overload, and you have to stand back to find the satire and comedy that's interlocked with all of that violence. But of course, if satire doesn't go beyond its targets, it doesn't work. It has to be more excessive than what it's about. And in a time when the Bobbitt and Simpson cases win big network ratings, Oliver Stone is showing how crime and showbiz have become unholy partners. This is probably the most far-out, challenging film yet made by Oliver Stone, who is not known for his restraint, and I think it's some kind of a masterpiece.
I saw it a second time for just the reasons you're talking about, and it's worth doing because I was once again impressed by the visual techniques that are employed here. And he does have a couple of good ideas. Television is the root of all evil in many other ways than just violence. By his most brilliant sequence is the parody of a sitcom.
Oh, with Rodney Dangerfield as the abusive parent.
Parent to the girl in the film. Now that's brilliant. And showing that we have a laugh track mentality running throughout anything that comes out of the box. We'll just sit there and take it and take it.
Amazing. And he points out, for example, that Dangerfield does and says extremely hurtful and negative and wounding things, and because the audience laughs, it helps show how so much of this humor of pain in sitcoms is really not as funny as the soundtrack makes it sound like.
That's, to me, the most sophisticated part of the movie. The weakness of the film, for me, is in its third act. Once they go to prison, and you get this Australian Geraldo, wonderfully played by Robert Downey Jr., you know, interviewing them and manipulating them for ratings. that gets a little old. We get the idea of that real quickly.
See, I like that. I like that because it shows where tabloid television is going. I mean, eventually you are going to have, if they get footage of murders taking place during a show, they'll run it.
Oh, of
and
course
people
they will.
will watch
I think that's going
and that's going to happen.
Oh, I think that's going on right now.
Well,
but in other words, I think we all understand that this is as trashy as trash gets. I'm talking about within the movie.
Okay.
I felt that run on.
Well,
but it's a good film.
Well, okay, then. It is a good film.
Yeah, okay. And our next picture is a very silly comedy called Blankman that tickled me most of the time with some big laughs before it sort of petered out at the end. Damon Wayans teams up with his old in-living color partner David Allen Greer in the story of a nerdy guy who becomes a neighborhood superhero, much to the amazement of his more cool brother.
What do you think? If you walk out on the street like that, they're going to arrest you and lock you in the nut house.
They're funny together. The would-be crime fighter gets in trouble with the police, and the scene where his big brother springs him is pretty funny, too.
Bye, guys. And remember what I said. A life of crime is a waste of what? Hey, guys. Hey, guys. There we go.
Really think I've reached a couple of them.
All right.
Robin Givens, an underrated actress, I think, plays the love interest in the film, a TV reporter who sort of likes funky Blankman.
You better check your sources on that story, Manelli. You might have got a bad lead.
Blankman. I see you finally got somebody here work with you who dresses worse than you do. What is your name, other guy?
Well, I don't really have one yet.
How about poorly dressed dead man?
I found myself laughing a lot at Blankman, more than I expected to. This is the kind of picture that Robert Townsend wanted to make with his African-American superhero comedy Meteor Man from last year. But Blankman does work in the tradition of a silly Jerry Lewis comedy. It's nothing but gags, but Wayans and Greer, who were so funny as the gay film critics on In Living Color, I think they work well together here. You know, I know you heard me laughing. We saw this picture together. You heard me laughing, some big laughs during the film, and I enjoyed it.
Well, I don't think you heard me laughing quite so much. No. I was amused by a lot of the stuff. There were a couple of times
there are some big
that I thought were funny, but generally speaking, Gene, here I have the same problem that you had with actually Oliver Stone's film, which is a whole lot better, and that is there is no third act. I mean, there are no new jokes at all, and it just kind of dissipates. And
at the
it's
same
the
time,
kind of movie you could watch it on the Late Show, you could watch it on a video, you could have fun with it up to a point, but I can't really recommend it.
All right, well, I had enough laughs in the first two acts that I say to someone, it's funny.
Okay, when we come back, a New York youngster pulls off an amazing scam in Fresh, and later in the show, John Candy's farewell performance in Wagons East.
The name's Harlow. I'll be your wagon master.
I'd say the jury's still out.
Now on video, in Tombstone, crime ruled the streets until Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday came to town.
You tell him I'm coming!
Reach for the action-packed video that'll blow you away. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Tombstone, ready to rent today.
You find your niche, you stay there, stay cool, and you be the man into your 50s and 60s.
That's young Sean Nelson there as Fresh, a 12-year-old school kid who was also a part-time drug dealer. And his employer, played by Giancarlo Esposito, knows how smart Fresh is. In fact, everybody respects this solemn kid who is wise beyond his years, but even so, they have no idea who they're really up against. One day, a neighborhood hothead and drug dealer pulls out his gun on a playground and starts shooting.
That's right. Go tell somebody you saw something. I'll come back for all you punks.
After the shooting, Fresh is brokenhearted and very angry. He meets his father, Samuel L. Jackson, for a game of chess and gets some hard advice.
I play my opponent. If he likes to attack, I force him to defend himself. If he's a cautious man, I draw him into dangerous water. See, you get so frustrated playing defensive positions, you make stupid moves you'd never make if you were thinking.
The first two-thirds of the movie are set up. The last third is an amazingly clever and surprisingly plausible payoff as Fresh uses his chess skills to keep track of the playground killer and the other evil guys in the neighborhood.
All right, maybe it ain't Esteban. He did it himself, man.
Where I'm gonna get $5,000, man? Where I'm gonna get it? You always trying to scare me, but I ain't scared of you no more. You can kill me all you want, but I'll lie for you no more.
The first thing I want to say about Fresh is that young Sean Nelson's performance is amazing in this movie. He has to carry the film, and he does, with a solemn determination. He's surrounded by other good performances, too. I like the portrait Samuel L. Jackson painted of a brilliant man who has been marginalized by alcoholism. And then there's the plotting of this movie, which was written and directed by Boaz Yakin, who had worked earlier on some Eastwood thrillers. He literally crosses the complexity of a chess game with the reality of the streets, and it works. This is the kind of movie that's a fascinating challenge to watch because it's always a few steps ahead of you.
Well, I think the first comment that you made is the right one to make. This young actor is really special. The movie, you can talk about the combination of chess in the streets and the game he's going to try and play on these people, and we can argue about how well that works or not. This young man makes this story, if he were alone, walking through the streets, there's something inside this kid, and the camera catches it, where you instantly care about what he's caring about. You feel the sadness in the examples that you're using, and you want him to survive, whether he wins an ultimate victory or not.
His survival, not just Sean Nelson, though, but as I think back over the movie, because the soundtrack is not filled with a lot of real loud rap music that makes you feel like something has to be happening every second. It's a quiet soundtrack. And think of some of the other people. Think of his aunt, who's raising those 11 kids.
That's a good performance.
Think of his little playmate. Think of his sister, how tragic she is. Think of some of the other dealers. Think of that teacher who's so strict with him when he comes late. There are really good, sharply drawn portraits of every person.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that what you're going to see when you see this picture is you're going to see somebody walk through silently through a whole world.
Yes.
And you're going to follow him. You know what this reminds me in a strange way? Remember in Schindler's List, the little girl with the red coat? In a strange way, this kid is another kind of red coat going through another tragic era, a present era. Coming up next, the late John Candy's last comedy, a Western parody called Wagons East.
Listen, I was thinking maybe you'd like to come to my Wagons tonight and we can talk. Or something.
The late John Candy gets some surprises on the trail in Wagons East, a movie which is only noteworthy as Candy's last film. The big comic actor died at age 43 while making this Western parody, and of course, the temptation is to say you mourn his loss even more when you see the film, but Candy's reputation is secure, and it's going to survive this tired mess that gives us nothing that Mel Brooks didn't do first and better with Blazing Saddles nearly 20 years ago. Candy plays a drunken old wagon master who takes a group of Western burnouts back home to the east.
We leave at dawn. Noonish.
Here's another tired scene as Candy rescues one of his traveler's dolls. Also along for the ride, Richard Lewis as a neurotic New Yorker wildly out of place in the Old West. His first 5 minutes or so are funny.
You got a problem there, mister? Yeah, these are my cows. You see? It's a Phil's cow. And, hey, I'm Phil.
Another passenger, a blatant caricature of a gay man played by John C. McGinley, who squares off against the film's bad guy, Ed Lauter.
Your move, sissy boy. Sissy boy? Oh, please. That is so Dodge City.
I was stone-faced throughout Wagons East. Not one laugh, maybe one smile. When we think of John Candy, I think we're going to remember him for films like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and his great work on SCTV, but certainly not for anything done here by anyone in Wagons East.
You know, Gene, you're quite right. There is not one laugh in this film. And even more curious, as I looked at the John Candy character, not one intended laugh. There's not even anything that the movie thought was supposed to be funny.
Well, hey, when we first see him, he walks in the saloon, he falls down drunk. I suppose they think that's funny. That's the level of the humor.
Falling over things is the basic comic technique in this movie. People are always falling over cliffs and landing in mud. and then you look at them as they get up out of the mud. This movie is desperately, unusually bad.
I agree.
mean, who ever looked at the screenplay and thought of it as a comedy?
We've had some amazing, you know, when comedies fail, I mean, we saw it with North earlier this summer. And they really get uncomfortable to be around. When we come back, a medieval lawyer defends an unusual client in The Advocate.
What did you hear? Very little. What very little did you hear?
Our next movie, named The Advocate, is a courtroom trial picture with a couple of differences. One is that the movie takes place in the Middle Ages in Poitiers, at that time a country adjacent to France. And the other one is that one of the defendants is a pig. Now, Miramax, which is releasing this film, wants to have the same kind of success with this film that they had with The Crying Game, and so they're taking out ads saying, don't give away the secret, don't say who the client is, you know. But in England, when this movie was released, it was called Hour of the Pig. That's how important the so-called secret is. The real secret is whether the pig is guilty or not. The opening credits explain that at the time, animals were held to the same laws as human beings and given the same punishments. So, of course, they deserve the same defense, and they have an expert advocate, a new lawyer who arrives in the small village. He's played by Colin Firth, and he has some modern ideas about the law.
There are no more counts, Monsignor.
Oh, but I have to enact the verdict of the Holy Fathers. I have to do that, don't I? I'm not your concern, mate. Don't worry.
You've done with the temporal charges. You can't act for the church. Well, there's no court in France.
You are not in the fine kingdom of France now. We have the frontier law here. Our law. You should study it further, perhaps.
The lawyer is invited to the home of the local ruling aristocrat, played very interestingly by Nicole Williamson as a man of great worldliness and cynicism.
Monsignor, I'm honored by your confidence, believe me. However, the Seigneur will understand that I left Paris for a purpose. I wanted to serve the people, not the...
What, the peasants?
Well, yes, them too, but mainly...
400 livres a year.
Excuse me?
4 times what you'll make doing your good deed.
He wants the lawyer to marry his daughter and is so forward about it that he almost seems to regard the girl like one of his animals.
Sir, I wouldn't presume.
Presume all you like. You're an educated man. She's past 20 years old. She's no title with her, and I'm losing hope fast.
The Advocate is a movie with a great deal of bawdy humor in it and also some sly insights into human nature. At times, it seems too modern to be set in the Middle Ages, but at other times, as the lawyer defends his improbable clients and their impossible crimes, we realize why courtroom drama is almost always fascinating. It's because we're asked to decide not only between guilt and innocence, but also between right and wrong. I like this movie for its quirky, offbeat, unpredictable quality.
Well, you know, I didn't care for it. The themes that it's trying to expose are very interesting. I mean, taking you back into the world when the law was just getting rolling and developing, and so you have the birth of ideas and concepts. That's exciting, but I thought that it's just what you said, which is that the writing, this we always get in period dramas. Do you write it modern or do you write it old-fashioned? And I think that that film didn't have any plausibility for me. I saw a bunch of contemporary people doing an old story.
Yeah, well, I don't think that I would have really believed that it was set in the Middle Ages anyway, and so it was okay with me that it had this kind of a tone that spanned these 4 centuries. It was okay.
It didn't work. Coming up next, my video pick of the week, an antidote for the baseball strike.
Gosh, Henry, you can play for the Cubs.
Siskel and Ebert's video pick of the week, brought to you by Orville Redenbacher, the first and last name in popcorn.
If your kids are mourning the loss of Major League Baseball, my video pick of the week might be just the ticket. It's Rookie of the Year, a terrific kids baseball movie from last year, just out now on home video, that wasn't quite the hit it should have been. In the film, Thomas Ian Nicholas plays a young Chicago Cubs fan who gets a break when he injures his shoulder, and the doctor fixes him up with what turns out to be a bionic pitching arm, much to the amazement of his friends in the bleachers.
Oh, my God.
Rookie of the Year was directed by Daniel Stern, one of the burglars in the Home Alone series, and he does a solid job behind and also in front of the camera, playing a goofy coach.
Welcome to the big show. Now, it's gonna take a lot of work. It's gonna take a lot of sweat.
But eventually, I'm going to mold you into one of the greatest 12-year-olds that ever played this game. Now!
Rookie of the Year has a standard big game finale, but along the way, we meet some pretty funny characters in a story with a lot of charm and laughs and heart. I really enjoyed Rookie of the Year. Just out now on home video, my video pick of the week. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs up for Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers, a violent, eye-popping condemnation of tabloid TV news. It's rated R. A split vote on Blankman, the silly superhero in the hood comedy with Damon Wayans and David Alan Grier. I laughed, Roger didn't. 2 more thumbs up for Fresh, a hypnotic tale of a young boy growing up amid violence, a fine first film from director Boaz Yakin. 2 thumbs down for Wagons East, a tired Western comedy that deserves only a footnote in history as John Candy's last feature film. And finally, a split vote on The Advocate, the offbeat historical thriller about a lawyer in the Middle Ages with a most unusual client. I thought it was strange and underwhelming. Roger thought it had some funny moments.
You know, they say this is the beginning of the Academy Awards season. Labor Day is when the good movies start, appearing in theaters, and Natural Born Killers and Fresh are certainly 2 Academy Award contenders.
We shall see.
That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with a special show called Guilty Pleasures, in which we praise films we're almost ashamed to admit we like. Films you probably haven't heard of, even though they star the likes of Roseanne Arnold, Gina Davis, and Richard Dreyfuss. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Dissolve It, safe, non-toxic, 100% organic, non-abrasive, and non-corrosive, located in the specialty cleaning section of your favorite store. Dissolve It. If you'd like to save up to 50% on your contact lenses, eyeglasses, and eye exams, call for a free Lens Express catalog and find out how you can start saving right away. It's almost school time again. Are your children ready to read? Hooked on Phonics makes learning to read easy and fun. Call 1-800-ABCDEFG 24 hours a day. New Blue Bonnet tubs with a great new buttery taste. Everything's better with Blue Bonnet on it.